What you have to do to make your test work when working with callback functions like this is you can accept one extra parameter here in this inner test function. So that function you pass to it or to the test function. And that parameter can be called done because it will actually be a function that you should call once you're done in your testing code. You don't normally need to do that because normally the code is executed top to bottom, but VTest, and the same is true for Jest, won't wait for any inner callback functions to finish. It will instead just invoke this line here. It will not wait for the callback to be executed, and it will therefore not find any expectation in the entire test code because this callback here won't have been executed yet. And hence it will mark the test as passed simply because there was no assertion at all. If you use done, if you accept this extra parameter, then you can call done in the place where you know that you will be done with all your testing related work. And now VTest and also Jest will wait until done was called. And it will therefore recognize that this callback function eventually is executed, and it will execute this code as well. It will therefore find an assertion and evaluate that assertion, and then once you call done, then it will end this test, so to say. So if you call done here in this inner callback function, now if you save this with this wrong expectation, your test will be executed, and you will eventually get an error. A failing test. But actually the test did now fail because it timed out. Now before we fix this, let's comment out the wrong expectation, the wrong assertion, and let's add our actual assertion that we want to perform again. So here I'm expecting token to be defined. If I do this after the addition of done, if I save this, the tests rerun and my test passes now. And now it passes because now indeed the test runner waited until done was executed and took this expectation into account. But why does it not work if we have a wrong assertion? I mean, not that we by default would want to have wrong assertions, but it would be comforting to see that the test fails with this wrong assertion here, because this will give us the confidence that we will also see future test failures if we change something in code, or if the assertion that was right in the past now suddenly is wrong because of some code changes we made. But still, if I save this, we just time out. The reason for this is that all these two functions like to_be in the end throw an error if they fail. And by default, if you don't have this asynchronous code use case, VTest and also Jest will pick up such errors and will consider the test to have failed and show you the reason for why it failed. But if you have such a callback here and you're using the done function, then the error thrown by to_be or the other two functions will not be picked up by the test runner. That's why in this case, and only in this case, you need to add your own try-catch block inside of your test code. And you want to try this assertion. And if it fails, so if your expectation was not met, then you want to call done and forward the error you caught. Otherwise, you want to call done without any arguments. So in the success case, you don't pass any arguments to done. If you now save this, now finally the test also finishes in time with a failure for our wrong assertion where we expect the token to be 2, and we get the output we already know from the past where we get the expected output and the actual output we got. Now we can finally get rid of all that code. I'll leave it here for reference though, and go back to the actual code we wanted to have. Alternatively, and that might even be better to also catch future problems we might encounter, we could move the correct assertion here into the try block and just comment out the incorrect one. Now if we save this, the test runs again and succeeds, but now if our code would change and at some point our expectation would not be met anymore, we would get a failing test with some helpful output. So that's how we can deal with asynchronous code and write asynchronous tests if we work with callbacks. Now what about promises?